Welcome to another jam-packed episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important news from the sports card hobby. We'll have some debates, opinions, new release schedules, and info. Plus, we'll also discuss the sports that so directly affect the hobby we all love. We'll mix in an occasional gambling tip or two, throw in some life stuff, and bring you great guest interviews from the hobby and sports dignitaries. And if you're good listeners, we may even give away a few things now and then. Now, here's the guy who wanted the cards and not the gum, John Newman.
Welcome, boys and girls of all ages. Sports Card Nation podcast, episode 40. 40 episodes. You know, again, when we started this thing on November 10th, 2018, I really didn't look that far ahead. I was just trying to put out content, get a little bit better each week, and here we are, episode 40. And I'm just ecstatic about how well we're doing. A lot of listeners, a lot of followers, if you like that sort of thing. Giveaways, we give back. Episode 50 is going to be a $50 bill to someone. I'm going to also put some other stuff together for that. When it comes to charities, we support that as well, which is a very big thing. Kids, we really try not to swear on the show and be kid-friendly. If you've listened to the show enough, you know where my stance is on kids in the hobby. It's just too important to overlook or not be concerned with for me. I started as a 7-year-old kid, and here at 46, 39 years later, I'm still hanging on. So we need the kids. I don't care what anyone says, and the hobby can sustain it without them, and it'll manage to survive. Maybe, but kids in the hobbies all makes the hobby all the more better to me. So glad to be back. Episode 40. Great show for today. We got Matt Hanscom from Firebox Cases, one of our new sponsors, but their cases are top notch. I use them. And I like to get sponsors for the program on products I like and use. That way I'm not shilling for anything that I don't know anything about. Another sponsor of the show, Perfect Fit Sleeves. I had Richard Black on last week to tell you about that product, but that's a product I love and use that I can tell you and show you why I love them and why I stand behind them and why I believe in the product so much. So I think when someone, runs ads or runs commercials or promotes a product, a lot of times they're just taking a paycheck and they don't care anything else about it. I try to be the other side of that coin, and I love sponsors that I use the product. So I'm not, just looking, hey, give me some money. I wind up usually spending more money on those products than the sponsorship. So it's not about the dollar signs. Again, I have a real job, so I don't need to pay overhead necessarily with it. So I tend to try to get sponsors of products that I use and love. And with these two organizations, these two companies, Perfect Fit Sleeves and Firebox Cases, I absolutely use them, absolutely stand behind them, love them, and will continue to use them. I hope they don't not sponsor the show, if not real great English there, but I still wouldn't change my opinion on the products themselves. So glad to have those two companies aboard. They're doing very well without me, but I'm glad to have them part of the Sports Card Nation family. So like I said, Matt Hanscom from Firebox will be on this episode. He's going to tell you kind of where the idea came from, how that thing got off the ground. But we're going to talk about cards and prospecting and grading. So it's not going to be just an infomercial, if you will. But the products are that good. We're definitely going to talk about them, full disclaimer. But if you were at the show, at the National, you saw a lot of their cases. They moved a lot of their cases. The slab pack, which is that backpack, hard exterior shell, low profile, slim profile. I had to get one. It was that awesome. Those were a big hit. I was seeing a lot of people walk around the show with those things. They got some. You're going to hear Matt tell you they got some new products coming down the turnpike. He's going to give you a little hint to what might be entailed in those as they step their game up. So a real interesting convo, not just about only the cases, about the industry, cards, graded cards, prospecting, and the like. We're going to talk about Andrew Luck on this episode in two forms of fashion, I should say. One on the hobby side, how will his recent retirement affect that aspect, and also we'll talk about it obviously in our sports segment from the box seats. So it's funny. I think that announcement of retirement will have sort of different effects on each hobby and in sports. So we'll talk about that amongst other things. First off the line, again, Panini. You can't hear me, but I'm shaking my head in the studio. Left to right. They've got to do better. They've got to do better. They're not a new company. They got to figure this out. I'll save my rant for the hobby section of what's cracking, and I'll talk about it then. So again, episode 40 episodes in, jam-packed, full show today. Let's not waste any time.
Alrighty then.
Sports Card Nation Podcast is your weekly hobby and sports podcast, now on 10 platforms: iTunes, Google Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Radio Public, Anchor, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Castbox, and Overcast. Listened to in over 26 countries globally, Sports Card Nation Podcast is one of the most interactive podcasts around, providing great content, giveaways, and some of the hobby's best interview guests without time constraints. Thousands can't be wrong. We want to thank all the wonderful listeners around the world, all our great guests, and our tremendous sponsors for making us what we are today. As always, without you, there is no us.
All right, it's time for What's Crackin'. All right, time for the hobby report. Let's start with the product release schedule. August 30th, probably out by the time you're hearing this already, but 2019 Leaf Trinity Football. On September 3rd, 2019 Super Break One-Time Football. I believe that's a repack product. On the 4th of September, 2019 Onyx Authenticated Futera Baseball Unique 2019 Prospects and Legends. That's a mouthful. I did see them set up at the National, and I did see this product. They're trying to get they're kind of trying to push that door open. A little bit of a pricey product, but wasn't terrible. But competing with the big boys, it's a little tricky. But we'll see how this product, what kind of impact it makes. Also on September 4th, 2019-20, Panini's Contenders Draft Picks Basketball Hobby. We'll talk about that here in a second with the first off the line. But I don't need to tell you this product is going to have some serious resale value if you can get it at the wholesale level. Just like the first off the line, which was $130 a box. They're not going for $130 a box on the secondary market, and I don't know how many people are opening them up that actually bought them. I think you're going to see a heavy resale on the secondary level. Also, September 4th, 2019, Gold Rush Gem Mint Baseball Series 2. 2019, Topps Luminaries Baseball, another high-end products on the Topps front. 2019, Super Break, Super Deluxe Hobby on the September 5th. Again, that's a repack product, I believe. Also on September 5th, 2019, 20 Upper Deck O-Pee-Chee Hockey. On the 6th, 2019, Gold Rush Autographed Baseball Jersey Edition. And that is the hobby schedule. So let's talk about it, get it right out in the open, and waste no time with it. The 2019-20 Panini Contenders Basketball, Zion Williamson in that class, first off the line, was today, Wednesday. And again, after canceling about a week ago due to some server issues, so they said, the process is drawing a lot of complaints. Full disclosure, I did go on while I was at work on my cell phone, took a break. At one point, it was pretty close to 11 o'clock. I really tried to be fully transparent. I tried knowing that it was probably a long shot not to expect anything. So I'm not coming at it from an angle where I was expecting to get some and I didn't and I'm mad and disgruntled. I kind of went in expecting not to get some. So these comments are coming from that place rather than kind of a disgruntled one, if you will. So I logged on. It was probably around 11:01 with the Panini Direct app. It said sold out on the app. I still clicked on the box anyway just to try it, and then it said available with a max purchase of 1. So I figured, hey, maybe I'm going to luck out potentially here. I still didn't really get my hopes up. So I hit add to cart, 1 box as they were allotting, and I went, and then it said proceed to checkout. I hit proceed to check out. That spinning wheel probably lasted about 30, 40, 50 seconds maybe, and then I figured, probably not going to happen, here we go. When it finally stopped spinning, it said product out of stock. So, didn't get any, as I kind of assumed I wouldn't. But, I know I beg, if you read my social media stuff, on Twitter especially, I'm pretty harsh on Panini. I don't really apologize for that. To me, they've got to come up with a better system between the bots and the servers, and it seems like most people not getting some yet. There's never really a shortage. I just head scratching. Where's it going? Who's getting it? Is everything on the up and up? And I'm not saying it is or it isn't. It just makes you wonder, truth be told. There's got to be a better system, kind of like a lottery system, sort of like what Nike did with new releases on shoes. And I know I hate to bring the sneaker world and the card world because to me they're really night and day. And I sometimes it's a pet peeve when I hear them compared. But the one thing I thought that Nike does well is that lottery system, and whatever it is, if it's not exactly that, there's got to be a better way than millions of people logging on to one website all at one time and, trying to, get all the stuff at once. When I did log on to the app and then it loaded and said there it is in stock and it said limit 1 box, other people would probably be, man, that stinks. I wanted to buy 3 or 4 or 5 or as much as I could. When I saw that, I don't know, maybe I'm the exception to the rule. I was like, cool. I was actually pumped that they were going to limit it to 1 per person. Maybe more people would get it that way. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of those people, but it is what it is. I went in there expecting the worst, and that's what happened. But still, there's got to be a better system. You're really upsetting people. I think you're alienating some. Now, let's be honest. people will complain, myself included, and still in the future buy Panini products, And, I hear people say, well, if you buy their stuff after this, don't complain now. I don't necessarily agree with that take, okay? You can complain about things and still make purchases, You can vote for someone for political office, and when they get in, still kind of complain about maybe you don't agree with everything they're doing. And vote for them again if they run again. So I don't buy that premise. I think you can complain about a company, a product, and still be a consumer. Actually, I think it gives you more of a base to complain being a consumer because you have experience with them. My dad is 80-something years old, still in pretty good shape, still pretty with it, and he's never voted in his whole life. And me and him kind of go toe-to-toe on this. He'll complain about the current state of affairs in the country and, how all these politicians are terrible and corrupt and yada, yada, yada. I'm not saying he's completely wrong, but I always say to my dad, Pop, you don't vote. You almost really can't complain. You're not part of the process. You're not an active part of the process. And, they all stink. I'm not voting for any of them. And that's his answer to that. So I kind of, saying that to my own dad, if you don't participate in the process, to me, it's a lot more difficult to complain. That's how I kind of feel about this Panini thing, is if you're not normally a purchaser of them, your voice carries a little less weight. But if you are a consumer, you can speak up a little bit more. And I don't think that precludes you from buying from them in the future, which 99% of people who are bitching and complaining, myself included, are going to buy a Panini product after this. Okay, let's be real. So, and Panini knows that. That's the rub. Panini knows that, and I think that's one of the reasons they're like that. They're going to get your money. Why do we have to bend over backwards and have the greatest customer service? We don't really have to, because you're just going to keep coming back and buying more. And that won't really change to me unless two things happen. People stop buying. I don't foresee that unless some really crazy economy stuff happens, or somebody's just changing leadership at Panini, and the new person or new board of directors says, we really got to clean this up. I don't see that happening either. So it's going to be par for the course, status quo, whatever other cliches you want to insert there. I just would like to see him do something different. I like kind of the first off the line premise. I do. Little incentive, different kind of product, little extra hits in there, if you will. And that's nice, but you got to come up with whatever the system is, whether it's lotteries or I've heard some other ideas. You got to come up with something better, because what you got working now is not good. It's not real functional. It's making people upset. Yes, they're still going to spend money with you, even being upset. But why not try to make less people upset and still get their money too? I think in the long run, that's always better for you. So Panini, I don't know if you're listening, fix it. That's my, hashtag fix it. All right. Unless you live in a third world country, and even then, you probably know that Andrew Luck hung up the cleats. Age 29, 7 years in the NFL, All-Pro. One of the best, highly rated, amateur quarterbacks, if you will, to come into the draft. And, injuries derailed him. And he was on pace to have a Hall of Fame career. His cards are obviously decreased, probably from what I'm gathering and looking on of course, eBay, 30-40%. Probably going to continue to go down. I think there will be a bottom out. I don't think they're going to completely crash. He's too good of an athlete. I think too many people will still collect him. And I think a lot of people, when these prices come down lower, they'll start snatching them up, and that's when they'll kind of bottom off. So I don't think this is going to be a complete bottom falls out type market. But, a lot of the people that were buying them and holding them with Super Bowl rings and Hall of Fame aspirations, I don't think those things are going to be realized. Now, the main question you ask is, do you buy cheap? You wait till this thing bottoms out, buy some stuff up cheap, and kind of cross your fingers in hopes maybe in a year, 2 years, maybe he's 100% healthy and he comes back and plays again, and then these cards just skyrocket back up and you flip them with some serious ROI. I guess you could take that angle, but if you're asking me what do I think that's going to happen, I'm going to say no. So, the Andrew Luck market probably never going to reach the potential that it was on pace for, and what it was going to be doing before he retired. I'll talk more about the sports side of it on the sports side, but on the hobby side, it's going to be opportunity. If you're a Colts super collector or Andrew Luck is your favorite player, or you're a super collector Andrew Luck, you're going to get an opportunity to buy some Andrew Luck cards at price levels that you would have never had the opportunity before. It'll probably be, while I'm not an Andrew Luck guy per se, I like him, but I don't really collect them or purchase them, under normal circumstances. It'll probably be something, I use as a search term just to see, if I can pick something off at maybe a really, really good bargain basement type price, And you never know. I don't think, if you know anything about Andrew Luck, his personality, I don't think he's going to flip-flop and come back in a year or two. I think he really thought this out. If you're reading the reports, he's been thinking about this for months. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. And I think he's done, for what it's worth. So, card-wise, I think we're going to see a continued bottom out a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a crash. I think many of the high-end stuff still going to hold a premium. He did put up some numbers. And on the sports side, I'm going to talk about whether or not he still might be a Hall of Famer. Most people are going to say no. I'm going to make a case. I'm not saying I think he gets in, but I'm going to make a case that he might. Let's talk about Panini Immaculate Collegiate Edition football. It's been out a little bit now. Doing fairly well. Really, immaculate, for whether you like Panini, don't like Panini. Most people agree Immaculate's really a nice product with the patches and the RPAs and all that. But it's what I said. This year's draft class doesn't have that star power of last year's and even other years as well. I think you got Kyler Murray, who some people, myself included, aren't completely sold on. I think you got a couple other quarterbacks that not going to make an impact for 3 to 4 years. Theirs might be an opportunity to buy some of those guys like Will Grier and even Daniel Jones, if you believe in them. I like actually Will Grier better than Daniel Jones. The Giants won't agree with me, obviously. But I think these guys might make stake their claim a few years from now rather than now, where like Kyler Murray is trying. So running back class is nowhere near last year's class led by Saquon. Josh Jacobs is the leader of the pack, and he almost was not a first-round pick, let alone the second overall pick like Barkley. So I think there's a lot to be desired in this class. It's what I said on a previous show months back, that I love football. I love football cards, but I think, especially when put right up against last year's, which was just so recent, it's going to really pale in comparison. All right, real excited to have my next guest join the Sports Card Nation podcast. His name is Matt Hanscom. He's one of the proprietors of Firebox Cases. We're going to talk all about the cases that were really to me, the hit of the National in Chicago. If you went, there's a good chance you probably saw someone either wearing the case or carrying one around. We'll talk about that. He's also, Firebox is also one of our new sponsors. Glad to have him part of the Sports Card Nation family here. And I wanted to bring Matt on and talk about his background in the hobby and really how Firebox also came all about. So, Matt, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, John. Excited to be here.
So, obviously, we're going to get into Firebox extensively, but obviously, I know from following you on Twitter and stuff, you have a background in the hobby. Obviously, I'm assuming that was first. You were into the hobby first.
Yes, I was definitely in the hobby first. I mean, I got my start right in the middle of the junk era, so all of those dollars were put to obviously very good use. When I moved back to Minnesota, I've been around the country, living in Chicago, in California, and I finally moved back to Minnesota where I grew up with my family. And so when I got back here, I got a chance to get over to my mom and dad's and take a look at some of my old cards, and just discovered, like a lot of people, how worthless they all were. So that was pretty fun. And I got sort of reinterested in cards through a friend of mine who's a breaker. I suppose shout out to Minnesota Nice Sports Card Breaks real quick.
Yeah.
My buddy Ben Wogan over there. I found out that he's opening baseball cards on a camera for other people, and I was like, what is the deal with this?
Yeah.
And it was just just a very cool way to get reintroduced to the hobby, about the kind of money that some of this stuff is worth nowadays. It was kind of exciting, as a middle-aged person, to come back to it with a little more, with a little deeper pocket, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't know how kids do it these days, but we're trying to keep them around. But it seems like a lot of the stuff is pricing them out, but we're going to have to try to fight that into the future. But
yeah. And if you've heard the show, that's a big thing with me. I believe, as much as I'd love to live forever, and unfortunately that's not how it works. And so we, that next generation, we like you said, and it's really something I feel strongly about. We need them to take the baton. That's my line I keep using, so I might as well keep rolling with it. But take that baton and keep running the race forward. Like you said, it's a big fear of mine that maybe there won't be enough there. But you know what, we've said that. I'm 46, so I'm older than you are. Not that makes me any smarter, but I remember saying that even years ago, and yet here we are many years later, and the hobby's still going pretty strong. It's had its moments where it's down points too, but right now it's it's at its high point. So I'm assuming you still collect and you still open stuff up.
Yes. Yeah, now I'm pretty much I only do modern cards. I have, whenever I have my dad's whole vintage collection. So that doesn't go anywhere. That's stuff that's like untouchable for me. Yeah. And whenever I come into some nice vintage, which isn't very often, that's that's stuff that's just immediately PC.
Yeah.
But I do a lot with modern cards. I do a lot with grading, and so that's what I was doing before I started doing cases. I was setting up at shows. I didn't really ever have very much, and that's sort of what maybe I'm getting ahead of ourselves here a little bit, but that's kind of where Firebox started. Is that when I set up at a show, I only ever had one showcase. Yeah, and each of my boxes holds one showcase worth of cards. Yep. And as far as there was some other stuff out there that was coming in different sizes or whatever, but nothing that really fit me perfectly for the way that I did it. And so that's why I made that first, what was called the graded case. So that was the first case that hit the market about a year ago. I've only been back at it for probably 2.5 years or so. Yeah. For cards, but if you're staying still in the hobby these days, you're sort of like a shark in water. If you're sitting still, you're dying. So we're moving pretty fast, like you know. Yeah. So I do have quite a few cards at this point, more than I should.
Now I'm a little bit of a prospector. Where I'll put some, guys that are like 2, 3, maybe even further away from the big leagues away that I'm a believer in. I know from reading some of your content, it seems you're of the similar ilk. Am I right?
Yeah, I do quite a bit of prospecting. I guess I have some fantasy baseball prospect podcasts that I listen to.
I do the same. It's funny. Not to cut you off, Matt. I saw that, and I know like Baseball One, which is one that I'm very fond of myself. I listen to
one. Yeah,
Prospect One. Yeah. I believe it or not, I do listen to it. Obviously, I can't say the name correct, but I do listen. There's about 3 or 4. That's one of them. Baseball America does one, and then there's another one. I think it escapes me. If I was looking directly at my phone, I could tell you. But there's about
MLB Pipeline does a popular one, and that's the reason why I like Prospect One, and you know as well since you listen is he is like it's sort of groupthink when it comes to prospects a lot of the time, and he's not off. This guy who runs that podcast, Chris Welsh. That is at the Welsh on Twitter. Good guy, great prospect mind. He's in Arizona, so he gets to see all the prospects firsthand. But anyway, he comes up with his own opinions. So I've sort of built my collection around some of the guys that he's identified as having high ceilings in the future. And so some of his favorite prospects you can find on the cheap. Now that doesn't mean he doesn't like Marco Luciano and Jared Kelenic and Julio Rodriguez, just like the rest of us. But he also got me on guys like Jeremiah Jackson. He got me on Trevor Larnach. I mean, he's a Nick Madrigal guy, so we're still waiting for him to probably pop all the way up to his true potential. But just identifying, that's the name of the game, is identifying, inefficiency in that market. Like where are people not putting their money right now? Yeah, that way
you get in with the highest ceiling possible,
Absolutely.
And it's smart. I listen to it too. The other thing I like about the show, he's got to pay us. We're plugging him left and right. But one thing I like about, he also has a lot of guest hosts come in and talk about what their observations and what they're seeing and guys they want to bring up. So you get more than just the one opinion all the time. Although, like you said, I do value him being based out of Arizona. He sees a lot of the instructional league play and that sort of thing. But he does have a lot of guest hosts come in and report what they're observing in their notes. And that's always, to me, that's always a plus. The more people you have giving feedback, I think most of the time it's better. I mean, it's not foolproof, but I think most of the time you're going to get a better snapshot of what's really going on. So,
exactly.
So we share that in common, which is nice, and and a lot of other people I'm sure do the same. But and that's what I do. I've said it right on this show before. I like to buy 100 count, 200 count lots of like a first Bowman of one of those type of guys, like you said, before the hype really, or before more people kind of lock on to them and obviously drive the price up. And that way, worst case scenario, if the career doesn't pan out, it's not really a huge hit to your bank account, so to speak, and whatnot. You mentioned guys like, and I love Jared Kelenic. I'm a Mets guy. I think they made a bad move dealing them.
Very bad move.
Yep. So, I'm still, I'm still swearing at Brody Van Wagenen, who's the GM. But even guys like that, Matt, and obviously Guerrero's, and their ceilings are like already there, like to really invest now. I mean, it's great to pull them. Don't get me wrong. If you're opening something, that's you love to pull them. But as far as like to buy them at this point, it's tricky, and that's why I try to get in on guys. I'm sure you feel the same way. 2, 3, even 4 years maybe out from the big leagues and whatnot. And I think it's more fun too. You kind of it's like it makes you pay attention more to even the lower levels, and it locks you in on the guys. And I think like a lot of things, when if that guy hits, you can always say, yeah, I was in on him 4 years ago. I didn't just jump on the train just now. So
yep, you can get in early, and the other strategy is sort of finding that post hype depression,
Yeah.
where maybe they make a major league debut, but it doesn't go all that well. They get sent back down to AAA, or maybe they stall out at a level for a season. Maybe they got hurt or something, and then all of a sudden they're off the radar where they were hot before that. So you can get in before their hype, or what I also do, probably do more than even that, is get in on that post-hype depression. Like even someone like Vlad, coming up into the majors this year was insane, his prices.
Yeah.
And then he struggled, and right now I would say his prices are just now starting to rebound.
Yeah.
On an upward trajectory again.
Yeah.
But if you got a few during that depression, I'm not worried about Vlad at all. There's obviously a lot of people who are, but I'm only minimally invested in him. So
yeah.
Someone else like Luis Urias, he didn't have a great debut. He went down to AAA, started hitting tons of bombs. He came up as well.
Yeah. So let's talk about, I know you touched on it already, kind of the birth of Firebox. You're doing shows. And, you just came up. I'll let you, obviously you know more about it than I. How did it really come up, the whole idea with the Firebox cases?
Well, it's just kind of a combination of knowing that at this point in the hobby, at this point in history, there are unprecedented amounts of baseball cards being graded, like daily.
Yeah.
And that's evidence in, the turnaround times that just keep getting pushed back and back and back and back.
Yeah.
And so there's just so many more graded cards than there have ever been in history. And when you have all those graded cards, I know the way that those slabs make me feel. They make me feel, when I get a good sub back, they make me feel like it affects my self-esteem. If I get too many nines, then I feel like I'm a wasted person at least for a couple hours after I get that sub back.
Yeah.
So, these things are very precious to all of us.
Yeah.
Even if you're just treating it like inventory and you're a flipper and you're selling it, even that is like, oh, well, that's going to affect your bottom line. So they're all very precious commodities to collectors, and so there are more of them than there ever have been before. And I just saw a disconnect in people putting these precious items into $5 cardboard boxes.
Yeah,
and it didn't make any sense.
Yeah,
kind of didn't come up with it. People have been putting their slabs in different stuff for years and years and years. But I wanted elegant is probably not the right word. I was kind of going for more of like a military look, something kind of aggressive.
Yeah.
Aggressive look, I would say, an all black matte finish, mostly aluminum frames. The slab pack, the first of its kind hard shell backpack is like a carbon fiber finish. So it all feels like a sort of a military look to it. And the products that we have, sort of on the docket for the future are going to match that as well. Without saying too much about it, but
don't give up. Don't give up the secret recipe, as they say.
No, right. Well, we have some other things in the works, and they're just it's all going to fit well within the brand image, and hopefully we'll excite our customers anyway.
Yeah.
But just to have something nice to put your nice cards in.
Yeah.
So, and that's what, like walking around the National, there aren't as many as there used to be, but just people walking around with shoe boxes.
Yeah.
It's like, I made the box, it's a nice psychological boost. Anything that you put in there, it doesn't matter if you're collecting high-end Bowman or just, or your vintage collection or whatever you want to put in it, it raises the profile of those cards.
Yeah.
And that's what we all really want, is just to show off our cards, to feel pride in that collection. And that
I'm going to come at it too, Matt. I'm going to put my 2 cents in. I've done shows since, I got to do, I'm old when I got to do math, since 1987 as a 15-year-old.
Wow.
So my first show was as a 15-year-old. I've done them, I want to say almost every year. There was probably 6 or 7 years. I kind of just, like a lot of stories you hear with collectors or dealers, they just kind of get away from the hobby and then come back. Same with me. I kept all my stuff. I didn't lose it or didn't get thrown out so much, or I didn't sell it all out and then start again. I put it in my garage, my closet, and then I came back and I started doing shows once again. So I would say in all total, I've done probably 18, 20 years worth of shows at age 46 from starting at 15. And I'm a big believer in kind of piggybacking off what you said there, Matt, in presentation. I believe in, you see, and nothing against anyone. I'm not trying to say you do it this way, you're bad. You do it this way, you're good. But, I've done shows and you see dealers, they'll just put the cards out on the table without a showcase, or they'll put just a big piece of plexiglass and lay it down over it. And again, to each their own. But I've always been kind of a glass showcase guy. And I even with the bringing the stuff to the show, I was doing the Munster boxes, the shoe boxes, and then I went to the Harbor Freight Apache case line, which I do like. They're not firebox cases, but they were kind of a step up, obviously, from that, like you said, the cardboard stuff. And
that goes to the stuff that when you list something on eBay, or if you put something up for sale on Twitter or in a room or wherever it is that you're buying and selling cars, just not including a back pick, for example.
Yeah.
It's just, that's like the end of the world for me. Because, more people grading cards than ever. A lot of people are there buying with that idea in mind, like I usually am. If you don't show me a back pick, especially of like some 2016 Bowman, where every single corner is colored, and so the whiting is going to show the moment you touch it with your finger. Like I need to see that back pick, and if I have to ask for a back pick every single time, and I mean that's not for every card. If it's like a less than $20 card, so be it. You're just trying to move stuff quick or whatever.
Yeah.
But yes, the presentation means everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of my eBay stuff goes in a light box.
So I do the same.
Taking a nice product photo that way. I have this big acrylic stand that PSA gives out when you grade cards through them. It just looks really nice. So I'm right there with you on the display and the presentation of your merchandise.
It's all that first impression stuff, you know what I mean? And talking about back picks, I'll sell graded cards, let's say on eBay, and obviously it's graded, so maybe it's a 9.5 or a PSA 10, and that's probably a card you could almost get away with not taking the back pick because it's graded already, but I still take that back pick just so it's there, and no one has to ask or worry about it. Or if you don't take it, someone might wonder, how come you're not showing me the reverse side of the card?
If it's a 9, for example, I still have to see a back pick because a lot of the time in my head I'm thinking, I might try to bump this or whatever. Yeah. So I need to see the back still. If it's a gem already, I probably don't care. Yeah.
I still post it. Just a lot of it's probably force of habit anyway. So
that's a good policy for sure.
Yeah. So. Again, presentation for me. I don't even know where that started from. Maybe it's a little bit of OCD mixed in there too. But it's always something I've done. Even when the younger version of me, I've always been like that, and to this day, I'm still like that. So, like you said, where the card is being stored in, and as you know, I'm even right now I have some of my my inventory in like shoe boxes and shoe houses, and I'm getting rid of that, and I'm converting into the Firebox Raw cases. I just think
I appreciate that too.
Yep, they stack well, they look nice. It has like I hate to, maybe this isn't the right word, but I think you know where I'm going. It has sort of an arsenal feel to it when you stack these boxes up. I want to explain to everyone out there how I kind of first came about here was at the National, and I'm walking around. It's my first National, believe it or not, for as long as I've been in the hobby, and I'm seeing all these backpacks, and they all, I see the logo on them, and I'm like, what is this? And then I saw a young man pull it off and then open it up, and then I at a table he was wheeling and dealing, and then I realized this is a card case with a hard, like you said, a hard shell exterior, looks nice. You know what I mean? It has a distinct look to it. And then I saw the obviously the raw and the graded cases. I'm like, this is crazy. I like these cases. So I went up, if you and I talked to you, gave you a card, and told you I'd love to have you just even come on and talk about it. And then I just said, I'm looking in my office here, my studio, and I'm looking at these, they're shoe boxes. Now, in my defense, they're the corrugated plastic ones. They're not the cardboard. I went the next step.
Fancy.
I went the next step up, but sometimes they're a pain in the butt to slide in and out of the boxes. If you load them up too much, they don't fit great, and you're playing a little tug of war with them. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna order a couple from Matt. And when I got it and I put two of the shoe boxes basically fit in one of the raws for the most part. I'm like, man, I like this so much better.
Yeah,
so.
we had a very good national, and you came and found me. But I will tell you, you saw where we were set up at the national. We had about. I mean, we were fortunate to be there at all. We found space aftermarket space. Yeah. So we couldn't really pick and choose. But we did only have about 5 feet of table on a side aisle, way at the end of the convention, on the other side of corporate, where people were like literally being funneled completely around us, and somehow we were still able to do. Yeah. Well, I just put out a tweet today. Since the national, we've sold 170 fireboxes. Yeah. So despite having less than probably the greatest real estate there, we were doing very well and had a lot of buzz going around the national. So I do appreciate your support as well. So
yeah. Let's truth be told. You said how you weren't in a prime spot. I think that's a testament to the product and what you came up with. That it really didn't, in a sense, matter where you could have been outside out of the back of a station wagon, let's say. And not that you want to do that, but I'm saying the product's that good. You know what I mean? That and the backpack was the first thing that I noticed, because there's the look to it. It's distinct. And you know what? In all the time I've been involved in the hobby, Matt, I've seen people use regular backpacks and put like an 800 count box in it, or even put a shoe box in it. But it's a regular backpack. It might be an Oakley backpack or JanSport or whatever. It's not designed for that purpose. It's utilized in that fashion. But then when I saw this thing, and then the first one I saw where the individual opened it up, I said, man, this thing is actually designed. This is what this is supposed to do. It's, to me, the first of its kind. If there's another one, I don't know about it, and it's definitely...
No, that's the first of its kind backpack, and, it did come about because when you walk around, the National or the Chicago Sports Spectacular or TriStar Show, whatever it is, you walk around there, the thing that you see the most of is backpacks. Yeah. I mean, almost everybody there is wearing a backpack. And it makes sense because, as people, the backpack or the bag that we carry is really indicative of the kind of stuff that what you're all about as a person. Yep. If you're into yoga, you carry a yoga bag. If you go to the gym, you've got that duffel. If you are a businessman, you got your briefcase, or maybe your rollerboard. The thing that you carry onto your planes with you is everything. So the same way with cards, it's a way of life for a lot of us. For me, like I said, it affects my self-esteem when I don't have nice cards coming back to me. So why shouldn't we, as card guys, be able to have a bag that reflects that lifestyle as well. So that's where the backpack really came from.
Yeah, and I was in pride, like, wow. And then I thought to myself, like, why did it take so long? You know what I mean? That was my next thought. Like, man, this is a great looking product. And then it took this long for someone to do it, but I think you nailed it. And you touched on something too, if you played sports, I coach high school football and baseball. I've retired from that now, but I played baseball and football growing up and through high school. And I still actually play fairly competitive men's softball to this day. And it's that whole adage, you got a nice uniform, look good, feel good, play good. It's that, to me, it's that mantra. If you like what what bag or case you're rocking, you'll feel better about what you're doing and the hobby in general. And I think you kind of just you just touched on that, and I think you're exactly right. Why not put your stuff and the stuff you really have a passion for in a proper
Yes.
container, whether that's a backpack or the raw or the graded case. It's just again, seeing him at the show was my first exposure to him. I mean, just if I could design something myself, I don't know if I would have came up with that. So just real. Yeah, no, I mean, just impressive stuff. I also, I ordered the backpack as well. And it'll be something where I'm going to use it the most is when I do a show. I'll probably, to be honest with you, I hope no one's listening that's got ill intentions, but I'll probably put some of the more valuable ones in there where I'll be on my back until I'm ready to really pull them out and put it in the showcase itself. So that's my adaptation of how I would use the back. You know what I mean? That'll be like...
That's good. And when you have it loaded up, take a picture of it and tweet me at Firebox Cases, because I love to see all those pictures of Fireboxes loaded up with that.
Yep, no.
What I call hashtag Firebox Fuel.
Yep, I'll do that. And what I'll do is I'll put some of my higher end stuff in there. That way, it's not just sitting kind of on the ground where, I'm pretty careful with my stuff anyway, but it's just no one can just grab it and, let's say, run per se. You know what I mean? So
Right.
That's how I'm going to utilize it. I know everyone has their own way of doing things. That would be mine. When I was at the National, it's funny you say about, backpacks are definitely a big thing there. A lot of people with the rolling suitcases as well, which I wouldn't want to do that. You know what I mean? That's just, it's like walking sort of a dog behind you, and then you're going to run over people or brush up against people or hit people, and you got to keep saying, excuse me, sorry. I understand it.
There are definitely people that have enough high-end stuff.
Yeah.
That they can have a rolling suitcase to bring around to a show like that.
Yeah.
But for someone like me, who I probably grade 30, 40 cards a month, which I think is probably above average.
Yeah.
There are people who do more, of course. But even with that volume of stuff, I know that some of it's not. I can't. I'm not going to sell this at this show or whatever. I don't need to bring every card I have. If you need a whole collection, if you want to bring your whole collection to the National, that's what something like that is for. And there are people who want to do that, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
For me, I am able to be like, okay, here's stuff that's going to move. Here's stuff that's not. I leave that home. The stuff that's going to move goes in my firebox. And well, at the National, I was carrying 3 of them, but
well, it's funny even with the I when I was at the National, I have my Oakley. It's a kitchen sink model. I love it. But, I didn't really bring cards. I could, with my flight, I could only bring a small carry-on, and they charge you per bag. So, my whole thing with the National was I had some interviews to do, meet a bunch of people. I got to go on the main stage with Drew, and then be on Fat Packs with Eric. So I wasn't traveling too heavy. So the Oakley just housed what I needed to have, which was mostly like some cards, business cards, audio equipment, and that sort of thing. But if I, like I said, when I do my own shows, I'm going to definitely be utilizing them. And the backpack is what I just said is it's going to be more like those higher end cards. So they're right with me, attached basically to me. Almost like
the backpack would be perfect, for something like that. If you're coming from out of town to go to a big show,
yeah,
you've got your rollerboard, you've got your carry-on luggage, and then you've got your personal item. The backpack would be, if you didn't want to let your cards out of your sight and you wanted to bring a lot of nice stuff with you, that the slab pack is sort of a perfect option for people like that. You can bring if you need to do work on the plane or whatever, you can even get a 13-inch laptop inside of a slab pack while it's fully loaded with cards.
Yeah.
So it's not like you need to sacrifice your productivity in your quote unquote real job or whatever it may be, just because you want to bring your cards to a card show. No,
Yeah.
the slab pack is there to help you for all of that.
It's funny you mentioned that, Matt. My son came up the other day. He was home, and he came into my office, and I was working on some stuff. And he hadn't seen the stuff yet. He's into cards, too. Not in the same way I am, but, maybe just through osmosis. And I said, check out this backpack. And I basically handed it to him. I said, open it up. And he goes, wow, man, this is pretty cool. I had to explain to him what it is. And then I showed him where the foam can be taken out, and hidden behind that, there's that laptop sleeve. So he was, he's not easily impressed. He doesn't, a lot of times you go, oh, okay, from him, but he actually was like, that's pretty cool. So, you got to...
I had a similar video for, you're probably familiar with a charity called Signatures for Soldiers.
Oh, yeah, Tim Virgilio, yep.
Yeah, so at Sigs for Soldiers, I gave them a couple Firebox slab packs.
Yep, I saw that, and very, very nice of you guys.
Yeah, to auction off for their charity. And
yeah.
One of the guys who ended up getting one of them videoed, it was for his kids, so he videoed his kids opening up the box, and it wasn't exactly the reaction I was going for, but the kid, because we were talking about how it's military and kind of aggressive or whatever, but the kid opened the box, and he was like, wow, this is so cute and small, which is a nice compliment, but probably not the reaction we're exactly going for, but positive reaction.
I'll make you feel like I said. My son Jordan gave you a ringing endorsement. He's tough to please. Like he's not a kid that will. Not that he doesn't say much, but for him to say, "Man, that's pretty cool," it takes a lot. So that's pretty cool out of him.
We ended up. You have one. We ended up with a very slim profile backpack. And
yeah.
It is smaller than you would expect it to be, despite how many cards it can hold. It's not like we just picked something out of thin air to sell to people.
Yeah.
We have other samples here that we tested out. There's one, the original sort of design for Slab Pack had a huge hard shell backpack. And when you put it on, you look like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
Or maybe or you should have been in Ghostbusters.
Yeah, like you have your, whatever you call those things, don't cross the stream, Dr. Venkman style. No, but I mean, it was unwieldy. You couldn't turn around without bumping into someone.
Which has its purpose too. I mean, you might want to make that for a select group, that would want to do that,
No, but the thing is that it held only a handful more.
Yeah.
We really maximized the space.
Yeah.
You've seen when you open yours up, and anybody who has one will see, when you open up the pack, it really maximizes all of the interior space.
No, it does, and like you said, a slimline unit. It's funny because I almost wish I had it before I went to Chicago, because I did bring some cards, not a lot at all. The cards I brought, I don't know if it's super. I had a small little one of those mini leather backpacks, and then I put my Oakley backpack with nothing in it inside my suitcase, and then my clothes on top. But the cards I brought, I didn't want to put it in the luggage and then have someone look through it, like they sometimes do, random searches, and maybe they see something like, oh, I'll take this home. I hate to say it like that, but you hear stories where that's happened before. And so I used the mini leather backpack to bring the cards, the very little cards that I did wind up bringing. I put them in that and had them with me on the actual plane. Had I had the slab pack before, I would obviously have done that and brought, obviously maybe I would, whether how much more I would have brought, I at least would have had that option to do it. And that now for future use, that could fit that bill as well. And it's funny, when I got to Chicago and I got to the hotel room and I opened up my luggage, what was in it? That piece of paper that says your luggage was randomly searched just We put everything back as whatever it said. We put everything back as best we could. Just wanted to let you know, just a notification that it was selected. So I didn't have any cards in there. I'm not saying they would have been taken anyway, but it's that train of thought that that your bag sometimes gets selected for search, and rather than tempt to anybody, I just kept it on my carry-on mini backpack. But in the future now, like you said, with the slab pack, that will that will replace the leather backpack I did use at the Chicago.
So and what we do is one sort of hallmark of our new products, the graded case we've been doing for about a year, the backpack and what is called our raw case, the way the foam is cut out, you are able to. You mentioned you don't know what cards you might have brought to Chicago. Well, the beauty is that whether you want to bring graded cards, whether you want to bring raw cards, the backpack and the raw case are able to seamlessly switch between raw and graded. The graded cards go in on their long edge. The raw cards sit upright natively, and so everything makes contact with that top foam and is held in place so that it's all safe. It's not jiggling around. The graded case can hold raw cards as well, but the problem is that the raw cards sit too far down in the graded channel, so they don't make contact with that top foam. So if you don't have it tight, they're going to move around a little bit, and that is what the raw case and the backpack. I mean, the backpack had we knew we needed to do a backpack, but the raw case particularly was like, how do we solve this problem of people that have a varied collection? People who have raw and graded cards that they're carrying around, and someone like even me, I don't know what my collection is going to look like, from week to week. A lot of the time, I'm buying and selling so much. So and raw cards can be a lot easier to move than graded cards. Let's face it. The premium that a graded card takes on, all of a sudden it's an expensive card, and that's not always the easiest thing to sell. So I always have raw cards with me when I'm at shows. So that's why we needed to come up with a way to hold both, because there are other options where there are other lines of products out there where here's something for graded, here's something for PSA, here's something for BGS, here's something for magnetics, here's something for top loaders. That's nonsense. We need one case that will hold everything, and that's what Firebox is for. Yeah,
and I think you nailed it. I mean, the raw case that I'm utilizing right now, I've got both in there, both raw and graded. They fit nice. I'll move that around the office. Nothing gets displaced. And it just feels good. It's not bulky, but it's not chintzy either. It's like, sound like one of the Goldilocks here. It's just kind of right. And, I think, it really, like you said, you covered all the bases. So and I think most people, Matt, have both. There's very few people that just have graded cards. I mean, if you open something, you're going to have, and you pull something, until you submit it, you have raw cards anyway. So there's very few people that just have they might predominantly have graded cards, but they have raw cards too, and vice versa. I think most people in 2019 have some graded cards as well. Some maybe have more than others, but I think everyone probably has some sort of graded inventory of some kind. So,
and if we're talking about some of the interesting, as long as we're talking about Firebox here doing an interview, we also included detachable shoulder straps on all of our cases. I mean, the backpack obviously has straps. But the graded case and the raw case have detachable shoulder straps. Because they start out at about 3 pounds empty, but when you load that with plastic, there are a lot of you were there at the National. A lot of people are at the National. They see people walking around with briefcases of various kinds, holding their cards. None of them look too happy. Because they do end up weighing 20, 25 pounds when they're fully loaded with cards. And that's not a big deal if you're just kind of running to and from the car, or maybe you're just setting up at a show. You just need to bring it from your car up to your table or something. But if you're at the National for 8 hours every day for 5 days, and I don't have a shoulder strap on the thing that I'm carrying all my cards around, then my cards stay home. Like that's the end.
Yeah.
They're not coming with me at that point.
Geez, that being said, I didn't even have much that I was carrying around, and my feet were killing me. And I was only there 3 days. So,
Exactly.
you add a case and cards and weight that you're carrying around. And like you said, the raw case I have here in my studio, where I'll eventually, I'm going to convert all over, I'm leaving the straps right on them because they're going to be basically my show inventory. So, boom, I can go down, it's just a second floor. So, boom, I can go right down the stairs with one on each shoulder and probably 2 more in my hands. And there's four of them. You know what I mean? So, the straps are a nice added feature. I think it makes them easier to lug around and offload, and it frees up 2 hands. If you got one of those on each shoulder, you still have 2 hands to carry something else or 2 more,
Yeah.
So it's just, it's you can see you thought it out. It's well thought out. The cases carry. You didn't make a case that kind of shut the door on the graded collectors. You didn't make a case that shut the door on the raw collectors. You encompassed the whole hobby. When you see things like that, it's just, kudos to Firebox and you guys for doing that. And there are, like you said, there are other cases out there, but a lot of them don't encompass both sectors. They maybe cater to one over the other, and you guys took care of both, and hats off to you there for getting that done. And the other product, I'm going to be honest with you because I'm an honest guy. Well, I don't know what you call them. They're that rubber bumper case for the actual graded cards.
Yes, the Slavyard. That's not up on the website. The thing is that they're hard to explain. Okay, so at the National, they did great because people could actually see them and see what they were for. And I sold a whole bunch to dealers at the National who were going to take them back to their local shows. Because what it is a silicone rubber bumper case that goes around the perimeter of your PSA or BGS graded cards to protect them from chipping or cracking.
Yeah.
So like today, I sold a 2019 Bowman Julio Rodriguez autograph PSA 10 Gem Mint card. Unfortunately, the day that I got that sub back, I dropped my cards on the kitchen floor. Yeah. It didn't take much. They just fell off the kitchen floor to the floor, which is probably, the kitchen table to the floor is probably like 3.5 or 4 feet something.
Yeah.
And that put a little crack at the bottom of my Julio Rodriguez slab. So all of a sudden, instead of getting $360 for my Julio Rodriguez, I had to sell it for $310 because it had a crack in it, and that's what it took to get people interested in a cracked slab.
Yeah.
So a Slavyard, it costs you $3. So the moment it protects one slab from being chipped or damaged in that way, it's paid for itself, 7-8 times over.
Yeah.
And what's really nice for dealers, for someone like me who sets up or anybody else who sets up at a show, and we talked about sort of the presentation of your stuff earlier in the interview.
Yeah.
Even if you are displaying your cards in very nice display cases and they're all kind of spaced out nicely, the showcases at a card show more or less look the same everywhere you go. Now, they can be arranged differently or whatever, but there's a snap-down stand on the back of a Slavyard.
Yeah.
So it's protected by the silicone rubber. It also is able to take about, I would say, probably 3 inches up off the table. And so it's like got a built-in stand to display that card. For dealers, it's really nice because for me, I can put my customers' eyes on the cards I want them to see.
Yeah.
They're highlighted in red and they're elevated, and they can be at the back of my showcase where no one's going to grab them. And the moment somebody says, "Oh, can I take a look at that Julio Rodriguez," or whatever it is, I flip up the stand, I hand them the card. If they drop it, so if you hand your card to a customer and they decide to drop it on the floor, you can't. That's not their fault. You can't make them pay for that, really.
Well, you can say something, but they're going to apologize and then walk away.
Yeah, that's what they're going to do. Yeah. So you don't need to worry about it being dropped at that point either. And then the fun thing that we were doing for the National on them was that we put a loop at the top, and we have like a branded lanyard necklace, and you were able to walk around the National with your PC cards, with your favorite collection, maybe something you had for sale. You could put a sticker on it, or something you were in search of that is rare or whatever.
You're the baseball card version of Flavor Flav.
Yeah, one guy did put a big oversized Cash and Babe Ruth in his and walk around, and so that guy really was Flavor Flav. But I might be the only. Hopefully some of my customers have done this by now, so I'm not the only one anymore. But for a while, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who's ever worn his. I'm a Twins fan, so I have a lot of Eddie Rosario cards. I got Miguel Sano's. Some of this rookie this year, Luis Arraez. I have some of his stuff. So I'm probably the only person who's worn his PC to the ballpark before. Every time I go to Target Field, I'm wearing my baseball cards, and it's glorious. Yeah. Every time I stand up from my seat, I got 5 people asking me, like, what's that around your neck? That's Eddie Rosario's autograph? Is that worth a lot of money? And all I want to do is tell them about how much money my personal collection of Twins cards is. And just like all of us, we just
it's a great way to advertise the product as well. And then, maybe you meet someone that says, hey, I collect cards. And you say, well, guess what I do? I manufacture, cases. What are you keeping your cards in? It's a great conversation starter, like you just said.
Yeah, and we were giving them away to kids at the National, too. And, if you saw what PSA was doing, they had a booth where you could put yourself into a T206.
Yeah, I didn't get to do that. I meant to do that. I never did it. So maybe next year.
Exactly. You could have yourself slabbed, and then people would come get one of our slabyards and wear their own baseball card around the National. And kids,
that's pretty cool.
Kids were eating that up. The kids love that, so...
Now, I got to be honest, when I saw the slabyards at the show, as much as I love the other products, that didn't do it for me in that perspective. But you did send me some, and so I didn't get hands-on until you sent me some. And so I will, and I'm being honest, I did a 180 on them, having them in hand. And
beautiful.
And I want to explain that to be fair. So I probably wouldn't wear it per se. Maybe like you said, if I had one of those PSA, those fun cards they did where you can have like yourself on a T206, maybe I would do that at a show just as a funny conversation piece. Or like, what's that T206? And it's me. That sort of deal, like an icebreaker there. But one thing I did put a couple of my graded cards in them. And you brought this point up, and I think it's a great point. Something that's really high end, like you said, if someone, it kind of draws attention to it. The red color, you kind of get the focus, check this card out. And the other purpose it serves, you also touched on, and it's true. If someone says, can I see that card, and you hand it to them, and like you said, accidents happen, they drop it, you got that buffer now, that maybe 4-figure card potentially, the slab doesn't get cracked. And like you said, and we were talking, that obviously would feel bad, and you'd probably be upset. They're going to apologize, but that's really all you're going to get out of the deal. And so now you've taken that, if you reserve them for some of those higher end graded cards, it eliminates that little bit of a fear of handing that card to somebody and them dropping it or whatnot. And it also brings their attention to it when you have them in the case, where some of them don't have that slabyard on and some do. You can kind of pick and choose what cards you want to kind of highlight, if you will, at that show. And you don't have to be a dealer either. I mean, if you're displaying your stuff at the office and you have clients coming in, and you sort of are impressing your clients with your collection, they want to see it. You can hand it to them, let them look at it, let them touch it up or whatever. If they drop it, you don't need to be sorry about having displayed something nice in your office or your dorm room or whatever. And I guess that all comes back to the design. You've designed products where the design is fully functional. A lot of times you see products, Matt, where it looks nice, let's say, but then the design itself isn't really functional. It's just more for the looks. You've kind of encompassed both. You got design and function, and you've combined them to make what I consider great products. And I hate to focus on one thing because I think they all are great, but the slab pack, the backpack is just, it's just amazing that it took that long. And then, like you said, and I appreciate you, you were honest in saying, we had another one that we had was just too bulky, and we trial and error. This was what we finally came up with. And I mean, there's all, you're like you said, you got products coming down the line, and you'll probably improve on little things here and there. But I'd be honest with you, for the first time out the gate, if you didn't nail it, you're pretty darn close with it. So
yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, and it's not like, when we go down a design road with one product like we did with that first slab pack that didn't end up working out. I spend just hours and hours and hours designing particularly the interior foam, so that it's maximizing capacity and it's functional. Like you say, people can get their carts in and out. They can see what their carts are. You order a sample. It costs money to have it delivered and made, and so it's all very expensive if you decide that you don't want to then follow through with that.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't right. So
yeah.
there was no way that we could go and sell that to people, even though probably people would have bought some, but it didn't appeal to me, so I let it go, and we went with something else.
And there's a word that comes right to me when hearing you say that. It's just integrity. You just want to come up with the best product, something you would use and stand behind, not just, hey, we know we can still sell this and cut a few corners and save a little money in the process. But then there's the integrity, like, I want something, it might cost a little more, we might lose a little on the front end, but they're going to be more well received, and in the long run, we'll sell a lot more because they'll be better. And I think that's what you did, and it's refreshing, because a lot of times, and not just in the sports card industry, or hobby. This is across all commercial lines. You hear a lot of times the opposite is really the case, and so it's nice you took the other side of that coin, and even though it might have been a little more work, maybe a little more overhead, but the product in the end comes out all the more better for it, and the consumer obviously gets a better product in their hands, and that's. You can't go wrong when you do that. So
appreciate it.
So I know I appreciate your time. That's one thing with me, and I want to get on a little soapbox here, Matt. I've always, when it comes to sponsors and talking about products, I'm a firm believer in using them yourself. So you can, you're not just a shill for something. I'm using these cases. I got them in full use mode, and so I can attest to what they do and their form and function. They're great products. I'm not just saying that. I have them. I use them, and so it's always nice when you have, someone involved in the show. And it's on that kind of level. And, I know you got some new products coming, you said. I know you can't give a lot of details, but I want to, number one, thank you for coming on and being part of the podcast in more ways than one. And also, I want to give you this opportunity to let the listeners know where they can find you and the products, and whatever you want to say about, I'll leave that up to you. Whatever you want to say about what's coming in the future for Firebox.
Yeah, so I mean, Firebox, I guess if I get one question more than anything, it's are your cases fireproof? The answer is no. They're not fireproof. A fireproof box, the size of the cases that I make would weigh 40, 50 pounds, and the capacity wouldn't be anywhere near what ours are. And what we're about is portability, capacity, impact protection, shock absorption. That's what our baseline is. But because I get asked so much, are your boxes fireproof? Are your boxes fireproof? Are your boxes fireproof? We in the future, without giving more away than that, I will just say that we are sort of we're making that a priority moving forward, that we're going to look into having some more premium options that are I want to not fireproof, but more fire resistant. I would say.
Yeah, heat resistant.
So it's going to be, but at the same time, we're not going to discontinue anything that we're already doing, because there's a place for the cases that we already have as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't do that yet.
Yeah, exactly. But we have these new products coming down the line. Keep an eye out for those. Probably going to put some of those out, hopefully at the Chicago Sports Spectacular at the end of November in Chicago. So if you're going to be around there, or if you're checking out the website around that time, hopefully we'll have those new products up and running at that point. But, you'll be able to find them all at fireboxcases.com. That's my store online. You can buy my cases there. You can also hit me up on Twitter at fireboxcases. And, if you were interested in the slab pack, or the slab yard that I did change John's mind on, that's where you have to find those for now, because even in our discussion of them, it may not be clear what exactly they are. It's hard to explain, and so they don't really fit into the website really well at the moment. But social media is good for that, at Firebox Cases. But I'm looking forward to hearing from you all, and always a pleasure to be on with John. And I do love the podcast. I wish I had a story about reconnecting with my father over baseball cards, like Stu did last show. But I can't really live up to that, because
you did.
I made a whole movie about that, so I don't know if my story is that interesting.
Well, you know what's funny? I almost asked you, so in a sense I'm doing it now. When you were telling about, when I asked you about your hobby background, you were like, you went to your parents' house in the garage and you found your cards, and then realized they weren't worth what you thought they were. It was very reminiscent, like a lot of people, but to the part, in Jack of all trades, where Stu goes to his mom's house, and and I was thinking that I was going to actually ask you, did you see the movie? Because it reminded me, you saying it like that brought me back to that movie.
No, I did. It was cool. It didn't go the direction I thought it was going to go, but it was like very sort of powerful in the end.
Yeah. It was, like me and Stu talked last week. Some people were like, I really I didn't want all the life stuff in it, and then you had other people who were like, I wanted more life stuff. It's like I told him, you can't please everybody. You're always going to have some naysayers, no matter what. But I think the movie's been doing very well and well received, and he kind of hinted that maybe something else is coming down along the turnpike. So we'll see what that might be. So looking forward
Shout
to
out
that.
To Stu. That was a great movie.
Yep. Well, thank you. I'm sure he'd thank you as well. So Matt, I want to again thank you. Thank you for the great products that Firebox puts out. Thank you for being one of our latest sponsors. I'm real. Like a lot of the podcasters, I have a regular job. That's not a secret. So I don't make a living off of the podcast. I don't think I really want to, because I think that changes sort of the equation of what you put out there. So where I'm going with this is, when it comes to sponsorship, I really like to have people that I like and believe in, and products just the same. And in this case, it's both, and that's always nice. It's always refreshing when you can say that. I don't know if everyone can. I can, and that's always a good thing.
And if we feel the same way about you, glad to be associated with your excellent program as well, John. Thanks.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks, Matt.
Hey guys, this is Matt from Firebox Sports Card Cases. In our hobby, there are so many different ways to collect. From group breaks to singles, Hall of Fame vintage to prospect autos. No matter how you collect, you place a premium on your cards.
With our durable aluminum frames, precision-cut foam inserts, locking closures, and detachable shoulder straps, Firebox will be the only case worthy of your collection. Firebox offers 3 unique cases so you can choose the option that best fits your collecting style. Whether you want the most graded capacity, the versatility to seamlessly switch between raw and graded cards, or hands-free buying, selling, and trading with our first-of-its-kind collector's hardshell backpack, Firebox has a solution for you. There is plenty of fire to pull in today's hobby, but the hobby isn't in the junk era anymore. So why are you still storing your collection in boxes made of junk? Go to fireboxcases.com today and use promo code SCNPOD to get 10% off your order of a premium case to reflect your premium cards. That's fireboxcases.com, promo code SCNPOD to start bringing the heat with you wherever you go.
We love our listeners. Without you, there is no us. We care about your opinions and feedback and invite you to reach out to us on any of our social media accounts. On Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast, Twitter at SportsCardNati1, or email the show at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. We don't ask for much, but if you really like the show, give us a shout out. Tell your friends or give us a follow on our social medias. If you enjoy the show, please give us a positive review on iTunes or any of the platforms you are listening on. Thank you.
It's time for From the Box Seat. It's time for From the Box Seats, where we talk about the world of sports. Obviously, let's talk about the biggest bombshell, if you will. Andrew Luck calling it a career. Surprised. I don't think anyone really expected it. He's been injury prone. I don't want to say injury prone, but he suffered some injuries over the last couple of years. I think they started to add up. He's a pretty intelligent Stanford guy. I think he just looked long-term and just didn't want to have injuries that ruin his quality of life in later years. So, I think he loves the game, but I don't think he's in love with the game. And I think he's a smart guy who knows he can do other things. Yes, he left a ton of money on the table. Let's make no mistake about it. I mean, crazy amount of millions of dollars. But I think to Andrew Luck, it's not about dollar signs. I think he's content just trying to get healthy and living his life, and he knows he can do other things and make a living, and he's not going to be poor or broke. He probably could be an executive, quite frankly, if he wants to stay around football. I don't know if he does or he doesn't. This is a frugal guy, too. So when we talk about how much money he left on the table, I don't know now, but my son told me as recently as last year, he still had a flip phone. In the world of smartphones, he was still rocking an old school flip phone. So this guy just needs the bare minimum. He's not a gaudy, flaunt stuff kind of guy, and I don't think money is an end-all, be-all to him. And when you leave that much on the table, I think that proves that. So, someone asked me, do I think he's coming back or could come back? I guess you never could say never, but if you're asking me to say one way or the other, no, I think he's done. I think the timing of this decision too speaks volumes. If this was the end of the season and he really had taken a beating all year, I'd say, well, he's just heat of the moment. He's beat up. I think he's done. I mean, if you can't get up, the season's about to start, and that's when he retires. I think that speaks volumes. His heart just not in it, And I know some Colts fans booed him off the field. when that announcement kind of leaked out. And, I thought that was terrible. I mean, this is a guy that when he was on the field, gave everything he had, was a great replacement following a legend in Peyton Manning. And that's a hard act to follow. And he did it almost seamlessly. So I thought the booing was really unnecessary. I understand you're disappointed, maybe even upset, but I thought that was misdirected. And, you want to blame anyone. Blame Ryan Grigson, the GM for a lot of those years with the Colts. He never built up that line, and Andrew Luck took a beating. The Colts had one of the worst lines in the history of football for a few years there. And Andrew Luck was either running for his life or taking shots and getting sacked. So, and he in the front office there, you want to blame Jim Irsay, go ahead. You can lump him in there too. But that team did not build a front line for him with his talents. And yet he still was pretty successful. So, that's where I would put the blame. I'm obviously not a Colts fan, but that's where my two fingers would get pointed. Grigson and Irsay. Let's talk about Hall of Fame. I don't think it's I'm not thinking he does, but there's a chance that Andrew Luck gets in the Hall of Fame. Maybe not obviously on the first ballot, but maybe in a later on kind of vet vote. His numbers are really good for the 7 years he did play and perform. Look at someone like Terrell Davis. I think Terrell Davis played 6 years and got in the Hall of Fame and kind of gave him a pass because of injuries. Can Luck have the same thing happen to him? I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I don't expect it, but you just don't know. He's a well-liked guy. I think this decision years later is actually going to be looked at more fondly than it might be in the moment. So I don't think it's impossible for Andrew Luck to get in the Hall of Fame someday. I don't think it's likely, but I don't think it's impossible. When Terrell Davis, to me, set sort of a different precedent with him getting in. So we'll see. Again, like I said, I don't expect it. Staying in the world of the NFL, your Miami Dolphins starting quarterback is Josh Rosen, not. It's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick has been named the starter. Tell me if you've seen this movie before, right? He's going to start, maybe has a good game or two, and then goes in the tank. So Josh Rosen, don't get too comfortable on the bench. I fully expect you to come in and replace a older Ryan Fitzpatrick when he stalls out. And like I said, when he stalls out, not if he stalls out. So Ryan Fitzpatrick gets the nod, at least temporarily, in Miami. Jadeveon Clowney is probably on borrowed time as a Houston Texan. Reports are they are trying to move him. They do not want to pay him as his free agency looms. They don't want to pay Clowney and Watt both $100 million contracts for two guys. So it looks like they put their chips on Watt. Watt came back last year, lit it up. I think that was enough for Houston to say and move on from Clowney. So they're entertaining trade talks. I heard that there's 4 teams in the mix for his services, and so it looks like Jadeveon Clowney might be on the move very shortly. Let's go to the world of basketball. It's the off season. Not a good off season for DeMarcus Cousins. First he injures himself, and now he has charges for his arrest on domestic violence charges. So the Lakers probably not going to have Boogie, most likely, probably for the year with the way this thing shakes out. So from the injury and maybe him going to jail, not a good look for DeMarcus. And you got to start to wonder, he's gotten this kind of rep as sort of not a great guy, and maybe the music isn't too long for this guy, and he's going to be on the outside looking in. But right now, he's definitely on the outside looking in. Also, Carmelo Anthony might not just be done yet. 2 reports. One, he's playing in scrimmage game with the Knicks, and the other is that Kyrie and KD are politicking for him to be signed by Brooklyn. I'm a Nets fan. I'm not a huge basketball guy, but if I have a rooting interest, it's the Nets. I'm a Syracuse guy. I live here in the Syracuse area, so there's a special place in my heart for Carmelo, but let's be real here. This is sort of a selfish guy. He's not always a team player. While he has improved his defense in the later part of his career, it's not really his forte. And it seems lately, wherever he goes, turmoil seems to be not far off. So as a Brooklyn Nets fan, I don't know really how I feel about that. Maybe as a stopgap, he is from the New York City area, so it's sort of like going back home again. He did that once with the Knicks. So I don't know. I guess I could take it or leave it as long as it doesn't really upset the apple cart. I'm not opposed to it, but as long as they don't change their game plan or build make it all about him. I think his prime years are way in the rearview mirror, and maybe I'm not even sure he's really a viable player anymore. So. Will he wear the black and white? I don't know. Will it be blue and orange as a Knick? I think that's the two places he'll wind up landing, one or the other. And in baseball, Aristides Aquino. Man, the talk of the town, the talk of the league, 14 home runs in 27 games. This is Roy Hobbs. I put on Twitter on a post, this is Roy Hobbs X. And, his Bowman First Chrome went from the bargain $2 box, $3 box to $200-$300 box, if you will. And, literally almost overnight. He just kind of came out of nowhere. I'm not a believer. I know that sounds harsh, and I know he's playing very, very well. But when these things happen, I understand about the quick flip. If he's in your $2 box, this happens, and you can move him for $200-$300. But if you're on the other end of that transaction and purchasing it for that $200 or $300, I can't justify that in my mind. I don't think this is going to be long term, and I'm not talking about the pace he's on. I think we all know. I mean, that's ridiculous. But long term, I don't think he's going to be a superstar in this league. I think he's caught lightning in the bottle. That's great for him. But when you we're talking about Acuna and all the hype with that. That's a guy you look at and say, barring injury, this guy is going to be a force for probably 8, 10, 12 years, perennial all-star, certain Hall of Famer. I don't get that with Aristides Aquino. And if you look at his minor league record, not that he played bad, but you can gather some information from that he's just kind of catching lightning in a bottle. This isn't really to me, and I could be for what it's worth, this isn't going to be a long time, everyday type all-star type guy. I think he's just playing super duper well and got a hot hand, hot bat. And my advice, if I don't have any, I had to look because he'd be in my bargain autograph box that I have. I didn't have any, but if you do, my advice is strike while the iron's hot and put some extra money in your wallet or bank account. Are you tired of that standard annoying team bag? The ones that get wrinkly, baggy, scratched up, and cloudy where you can't even see your prized cards anymore? I was too, until I found the answer. And that answer is crystal clear. Perfect Fit Sleeves. These sleeves are water clear and smooth as silk and are what collectors are waiting for way too long. The solution comes in every size from the smallest to the largest, including thick magnetics and graded cards. I use them. I swear by them. Find yours today at www.perfectfitsleeves.com or go to eBay and search seller Richie707, RICHY 707. You can thank me later. Well, so concludes another episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast. Episode 40 is a wrap. We hope you enjoyed the show. The 40 episodes we've done, I got to say, it's been incredible. It's been fun to do. We're just going to keep striving to get better and keep bringing you content and interview guests from all walks of life of the industry. Next week's guest, I don't want to say it. It's a guy I was trying to get for a little bit. A really nice guy, and I think you'll enjoy it if he comes on like I think he's going to. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to the next episodes as we approach, again, episode 50. I know I talk about episode 50 a lot. To me, it's sort of like a pretty good milestone. It's also going to be the episode we give away a $50 bill. I want to give away some other stuff. I'm going to announce right now, next month we're going to give away, as part of a giveaway, a slab pack, the Firebox backpack case, which is a great case. Some lucky listeners going to win that, and it's going to be one heck of a prize. And I almost want to win another one, but it's not going to be me. It's going to be someone else. So there's a special announcement right there. That'll be a cool prize for someone who wins it. And that's the kind of things we want to do on this show. We want to be interactive. We want to give back, give things away, give out money prizes. Not that that's what it's about. You got to have content too. I get it. But, I've been on the other side of the mic too. And I know I used to like that kind of stuff as well. So we got some things coming down the turnpike, as they say. I just got a drone. I'm calling it the SCN1. And I want to see if I can incorporate that in the show in some small way. Maybe on a giveaway, I take that thing up. It's an HD drone, so it shoots video, and maybe we announce the winner by me holding up a card with the winner's name on it and filming it that way. Just sort of a gimmicky, funny kind of thing. I might be old, but I can still have a little fun now and then too. So, maybe I'll do something like that. So I'm always trying to think a little bit outside the box, if you will. I mean, the hobby's been around a while. There's a lot of people in it. A lot's been done already. But if we can do something new, wrinkle, or something different, we're sure as heck going to probably try to do it and put our own little spin on it, if you will. So, again, whether you've listened to one episode or all 40, we're not here without you. I don't get to do this, which I enjoy to do, without you. Not a week or an episode goes by where I don't want to acknowledge that. I acknowledge it on every show. If you hear the ad I run that I had professionally produced, there's no us without you, and it thanks you, and that's how I really feel. And I like to also do it myself as well, personally, as much as I can. So, again, thank you for giving us your time, wherever it might be, in the car, in the office, at work, in the gym, wherever it is. You don't have to do it. You choose to do it, and I choose to say thank you. So, with that being said, I'm going to let my man, Sparty Hawk, Marlon Carlson, take us home.
You've been listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. Join host John Newman next week as he gives you another jam-packed episode of all things related to the sports card hobby. And a little extra fun, too. Don't forget to check out the show on Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast.